Welcome to the Highly Evolved Male Summit. My name is Ethan Ducolta, and today we have the amazing PJ. PJ is a lifelong motivational speaker and international transformational coach, and despite his disability, which was expected to end his life at the age of 7, he chose to live and lives well. PJ truly lives an extraordinary life, sailing, outdoor skydiving, indoor skydiving, trapezing, hiking, mountain climbing, snow skiing. I've literally got a whole list of this stuff because there's so much which I'm reading from. He's a former wheelchair athlete, international traveler, amateur watercolorist, founder of 2 non-profit organizations and 4 disabled sports programs, a published author, 10th degree black belt martial arts and women's self-defense instructor, and a meditation teacher. Additionally, PJ has been inducted into the National Hall of Fame for people with disabilities and was nominated to carry the Olympic torch through Tucson in 2002. PJ, welcome to the show. It's amazing to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Ethan. I appreciate it. It's always a little bit, embarrassing to hear your own bio because, even though like this, everything on there is true and I live a great life, right? The thing for me is that it's always one of those things where you're like, oh, like, did I need to say all that? Or could I just have said like, yeah, I'm a coach and a speaker. But the truth is like, because of my disability, I get to live a really highly inspired life. And when I live that inspired life, then hopefully I'm inspiring other people. A lot of people sometimes will say, because I'm a tiny little guy, since we're doing video, right? I'm gonna back up so people can see me, all right? The back of my chair is here, right? But you can see when I sit normal, I'm here. So there's this big gap. So there's a huge curvature in my spine, right? So my belly button is literally sitting on this seat between my thighs. And you can see how skinny I am, how thin my little arms are, right? So why do I tell you that? Because people say to me so many times, they're like, why don't you have an electric wheelchair? And I'm like, dude, why would I want an electric wheelchair? As long as I can move my body, I want to be able to move my body. I want to be able to go. And if I'm out moving about and people go, wow, at least my life's not that bad. My life's not bad. But from their perspective, if they go, wow, at least my life doesn't look like that and like feel like that, man, my day must not be that bad. Then hopefully I'm inspiring other people to really up level their life. Now, if I go to an electric wheelchair, for me, that's quitting. And if I quit, then that gives you or anybody else who's listening, my sister, my mom, my friends, the right to quit too. And I don't want people to quit. I want people to live. Like, that's why we're here, right? That's why I jump out of planes, indoor skydiving. That's why I do all this crazy stuff, because it's fun for me. And that's the way I want to live. I want to like live my life as if it's juicy and delicious. And I want to drink in and taste every morsel. That's the way we live.
Yeah, I just think it's such an inspiration, and really, I think it's a great thing that your bio has all of that amazingness in it, because it just really shows other people, what you can achieve. And, I would imagine, I'm just guessing now, that you haven't always had this kind of mindset. Maybe what had to happen? What was your story, how you've managed to be such an inspiration and have this real positive mindset to be able to, be a role model for others? There you are, you're a role model.
Thanks, man. I remember, actually, it's kind of crazy. I remember being resistant to the idea that I was a role model for a while when I was younger, because I was like, no, I'm not a role model. I'm just like a person doing my life. But that was because I was in a little bit of resistance to my disability, but also because there was a sense of humility in me that didn't want my own ego to be elevated or inflated in any way. So I'm very, very fortunate. I have an incredible mom, right? And she raised me to believe that I could do anything that I set my mind to, right? She literally would shout to my sister and I, when we say, I can't do it, she'd say, Can't doesn't live here, but I can. She's like, Can't never did a thing, keep trying, right? And I'm like, nah. So when I was little, I'll try and make this fast so we can get to the juicy, delicious stuff. But when I was little, like I was only like 4 years old when I was standing there at the fence crying, watching my friends get onto a school bus and go to school. And my mom was like, why are you crying? I was like, because I want to go to school, mommy. And so she took me to the doctor and said, because she knew something was wrong with me because my disorder is a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. So rare that when I was in the 8th grade, there were 25 people in the world that had what I have.
Mm.
So she takes me to the doctor, and the doctor says, she says, can I send my son to school? And the doctor says, if you send your son to school, he will die by 2nd grade, meaning 7, right? And my mom said, took a breath, and she said, well, it's his life. And that's my mom's philosophy. It's his life. He gets to choose. So she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to school. So she sent me to school. I was one of the first kids with a disability in the United States to be mainstream. Maybe not the first, but it was definitely on the cutting edge of that. And so I had a good life, man. Like literally at 7 years old, you know, when I'm supposed to die, at 9 and 10 years old, I've already surpassed that by 2 and 3 years. So I remember like getting dressed in the morning and putting on my, you know, my little underwear, my little socks, my little leg braces, you know, my little pants and shirt and little shoes. I mean, I'm not much bigger now. I'm only like 5'2" or something, right? If you'd stood me up and stretched me out, 4 feet tall in my wheelchair. So you know, I would yell, okay, Mom, I'm ready for you to come button and zip me and get me tucked in. And she would yell back, okay, you keep trying. I'm busy. So I like rolled around and tried to tuck in my shirt and like get buttoned and zipped and, you know, trying to get just the right angle to get the leverage to snap my snaps and zip my zipper, you know, to get my little hands to work. She would be sitting in her room while I'm working my buns off. She'd be sitting in her room crying because she wanted to come help me, but she knew that if she did, that I would become dependent upon that support instead of learning to do it myself. And I'd already at this point lived 2 or 3 years longer than I was expected. And since that was the case, she was like, oh, we don't know how long he's going to live, but if he's going to live, he gets to have the best possible life. So 30 times when I would do stuff, and my grandmother would say, how are you going to let PJ do that? What if he dies? What if something happens? And my mom goes, if he dies with friends and he dies doing something he loves, right? That's how I was raised. So your question though was, have I always been like this? I started this way, bro. Like I'm just a pretty deeply spiritual cat. And I have been since I was little. My mom used to say I would ask her questions about God when I was little. And she's like, how do you know that? You know? And apparently I told her when I was little, Mommy, I chose you. You know, when I came here, I chose you. So pretty interesting for me. But there's this period, 7th and 8th grade, which was miserable, bro. Like 7th and 8th grade was so rough. You know, 12 and 13, because you're going through the hormone dump and you don't know who you are. And like K through 6, girls like me, 7th and 8th grade, they didn't. You know, K through 7, I walked. 8th grade, I wasn't strong enough to walk anymore. I kept falling, you know, and trying to stand back up in the hallway and falling in school. Finally, the principal called. My mom was like, you have to do something. He can't walk anymore. He's falling. And so they put me into an electric wheelchair, which was big resistance for me. I didn't want it, right? Because I didn't want that disability. But man, once I got in that thing, I was all over the place and I loved it. I broke them. I've broken manual wheelchairs. I've broken a crap ton of leg braces. I've broken electric wheelchairs. And I would take them back in and people would be like, how can you break this? Nobody breaks these. And I was like, I'm living my life, man. Like I'm a kid. I got to break stuff. That's what we do, you know? So, like up through high school, I got better. College, I got better, you know, in terms of liking myself. But it didn't up until I moved out to Arizona and when I was 27 years old. And my spiritual teacher at the time said, I want you to go home and pray. And home meaning where I was staying, because I literally the first night in Arizona. And she said, just after you pray and say, what is it that you want me to do with my life? Just listen. And so I sat there and I said, okay, God, I believe I'm in Arizona for a reason. What is it that I'm supposed to do? And I just got quiet. I didn't just get quiet though, brother. I got still. And part of being a highly evolved male is when we look at what Einstein said, nothing changes until something moves. Nothing changes until something moves. Now, in the physical world, Einstein is 100% right. But for a spiritual cat like me, right, I say nothing changes until you become still, deeply and profoundly still. Then everything changes. And I'm not talking about physically still. I'm talking about internally still, right? When there's just presence, not being in the present, but much deeper than that, being in the presence, which we can talk about the difference if you'd like. So anyway, continuing on with my story really briefly, as I became still, this pillar of golden light came through the ceiling, entered the top of my head, filled up my entire body. And I heard one word, love.
Mm.
And I knew in that moment that it didn't matter what I did. Now, listen, I've been speaking since I was 7 years old. I've literally been on stages since I was 7 years old. And so um, as I sat there, I realized it didn't matter what I did after this point. What mattered is that I did it with love, that I loved everybody, right? Well, listen, what I didn't realize was about 6 months later, I was going to be hit by an SUV, okay, and knocked out into 3 lanes of traffic and 3 lanes of oncoming traffic, hit by an SUV. My wheelchair would crumple underneath the SUV, and there would be an EMT team in the restaurant that the SUV was pulling out of. And so they were able to run out, check on me, and pick me up and take me across the street to the hospital. Ethan, I wasn't intended to die that day.
No.
I was intended to have a profound experience. So in that moment, I was in excruciating pain for the next 4 months. I couldn't push my wheelchair. I couldn't sit on the toilet myself. I couldn't climb up onto the bathtub. I couldn't sit in the bathtub very well. I couldn't feed myself because I was in excruciating pain. So I was going through therapy for like 4 months. Okay. Here's the apex of the story. The last day of my physical therapy, my physical therapist says, PJ, we've tried everything: aqua therapy, massage therapy, stretching. We've done electric stimulation. We've done all of this stuff because I've checked with all of my counselors and my advisors and my books and my teachers and my professors and my mentors. He's like, and I can't find any reason that you're in pain. He said, I did talk to somebody just a couple nights ago, and he said that I might check I'm out palpating, means pushing right above the groin, right deep in through the front of your body to touch the pelvis and the back of your body to see whether or not those two are offset. And he's like, it's going to hurt. And I was like, it's fine, man. Like, let's figure this out. Now, this is what I want the highly evolved males to listen to. He said, it's going to hurt. So this is the metaphor for our lives. Okay. Are you willing? Are you man enough? Are you courageous enough to go through it? Stay with me for just a sec. He pushes through the front of my body to palpate, to feel my pubic bone. And it didn't hurt that bad, but he was like, it's going to hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad, but I can feel it. And he's like, that's the problem. He's like, your right hip bone is popped out of alignment. Dude, we could have handled this on day one, right? Day one. So for 4 months, I went through this pain and this suffering. For 4 months, I thought I was losing everything. For 4 months, I started to experience a sense of depression because I wasn't able to live the life that I had lived. I felt like I was losing everything. So then he rolls me on my side. He goes, okay, roll on your side. I roll on my left side. And he goes, this is going to hurt. And he's like, and this, I mean it. He goes, and he grabs my hip bone and he goes, pop. And he pops the sucker back into place. I'm like, right? And so he pops back into place. I can't walk. I haven't walked since 8th grade. I feel like it hurt so bad I could get up and run around the room, right? Pops the sucker back into place. I voluntarily go through this pain. I voluntarily say, I'll do it because I want to get better. I will do what's hard and difficult so I can have the better life on the other side of this. Pops that sucker back into place. Excruciating pain. And then no pain. And then I was on the other side. And in that moment, I was able to sit up myself. I was able to sit in a way I haven't sat for 4 months. I jumped off of the hospital bed. You know how they've got those, not the bed, but like those like examining room tables that, that are kind of small in the examining room, but they're up kind of high. I literally by myself jumped out of that, dropped down into my wheelchair myself, no pain. I pushed myself out to the car. In that moment, brother, my whole life changed. So this is the answer to your question. The answer to your question was, have you ever gone through it? Have you always been like this? So I was going through it. Like I thought my life was good. And then when it was stolen from me, I didn't realize that I had been taking it for granted. Yeah. And so when I got it back, all of a sudden I was like, wow, I was so profoundly grateful that I realized that gratitude is a precursor to love. When we're so profoundly grateful, what happens is we become humble. And in that humility, the door to love opens up. And that's when I realized in that moment in prayer and meditation, when that pillar of golden light filled my body, it said love. It wasn't telling me to go out and love other people. It was telling me, learn to love yourself first and appreciate and love your life so that you can learn to love other people the way you want to and the way they deserve to be loved by you. And that's a highly evolved male, a man who leads with his heart.
It is indeed. I mean, just from that from that section of what you said, I've got so many things from it. At the beginning, you're talking about being responsible. When instead of waiting for your mum to get you ready, you're doing it, and then you're talking about presence as well. That's been a big one for me. Just being present to experience that moment and not being distracted by everything else that's going on, and that's almost like a precursor for love as well, and obviously your gratitude. It's just absolutely pouring out of you today.
Thanks. So can we
Yeah.
talk about present and the difference between being present and being in the present?
Yeah, please.
Is that okay? And here's why. Because to me, a highly evolved male is someone who is perfectly aligned or working towards that perfection of alignment. And what I mean by alignment is you saw me sit back up, right? So what was happening is my back was sagging forward. So my belly button was sitting on the seat between my legs, and I needed to straighten my back a little. So I hooked my shoulder blades on the back of my chair to hold my spine straighter, right? So I'm changing the erection of my spine. And what I'm doing is I'm realigning it in the proper way, in a way that feels more comfortable. So when we are uncomfortable in our lives, when we are not doing what we want to do, we're out of alignment. But when we are in alignment, spiritual alignment, intellectual alignment, value alignment with our values, our ethics, and our morals, physically healthy, right? The alignment with our body, what our body wants to do, because men want to test their muscles. We want to test our muscles. So when we're in alignment and we're testing our muscles and we feel like we've got that power inside of our body, that feels so good to have that strength inside of our body. It doesn't mean that we have to carry the ego and the arrogance with it, right? Yeah. This is where we talk about evolution. So be powerful in your body. Be emotionally evolved, which means be courageous enough as a man to be able to touch that emotion and say, babe, give me a sec to feel what I'm feeling. Because as men, we tend to be in our minds, right? We're very intellectual, very process-driven, very like, what's the word that we always use as men? Are very matter of fact. I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of. It's sort of the opposite of emotional, logical.
Yes.
Right? So, right. So take a moment and, if your partner's like, well, what are you feeling about this? Because women always want to know what you're feeling. Now, listen, whether you're talking male, female, heterosexual relationship, or male, male, it doesn't matter. Your partner deserves to know what you're feeling. You deserve to know what you're feeling. So if you take a minute and you check in, one of my friends actually did this. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I've actually suggested it to several of my male clients, is that you go online and you look up a list of emotions, and you don't just print them out, although he did, you write them out. So you write them out, all of a sudden you go, oh, right, I forgot about, agitation. I forgot about feeling assertive. Thought about feeling doubtful. Forgot about feeling, inspired, right? So these are words, emotions that we forgot about. So, and he would like pull it out once a day, read through it, put it back in his pocket. So he always had it. So what happens is when you start to become in touch with your emotions, your evolution rises, because now you can speak to women at a different level. You can speak to women at a highly evolved level, right? And you remain intellectual, which means you continue to grow intellectually, right? Now, spiritually, when I talked about alignment a moment ago, when you do meditation, and meditation is a big growing practice around the world. And if you can't, let me just add this real quick. If you're one of those guys who can't meditate, or if there's any women listening to this, if you're one of those people who feels like, I can't meditate because I can't get my mind to shut down, it's just constantly chattering, slow down for a minute. Maybe you're misunderstanding that meditation has to be about stilling the mind, and you've been misled. Just sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe naturally, breathe rhythmically, in through your nose for say 5 or 6 seconds, pause, out through your mouth for say 6 or 7 seconds, pause, repeat, in for 5 or 6 seconds, pause, out for 6 or 7 seconds. So create this rhythm, because it's not breathing deeply that changes the brain, right? That allows the brain to calm. It's the rhythmic breathing that changes it. And if you're one of those people who's like, I just can't get my mind to shut down. I know I may seem like I'm all over the place, but I want to make sure that your peeps are getting everything they can today.
It's great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So if you're one of these people that your mind just won't shut down, you have a hard time sleeping at night, I would suggest journaling. Write down what you have to do the next day, and then journal 2 or 3 pages of stream of consciousness, whatever wants to come out, right? Because when you journal whatever wants to come out. When you lay down to sleep, your mind will be quieter. You'll be able to sleep. Do this also before you do meditation. You don't have to do a list of the things you want to do for the rest of the day, although you can, unless you've already got that list done. But journal 2 or 3 pages before you sit in meditation. So what happens is you data dump. And then you sit in meditation, you close your eyes, breathe rhythmically. Don't worry about breathing deep, but allow that exhalation to be a full exhalation. Most people don't exhale fully. So that means that they're still holding on to toxins physically, but also psychologically, okay, and biochemically. So learn to exhale fully and completely, because when you learn to exhale fully and completely, you can take a full breath. And when you take a full breath, you can come back to balance. Okay. Now listen, people think that meditation is about stilling the mind. That is an advanced, highly evolved method. Okay. Just take it slow on your step to evolution, which is just close your eyes, breathe rhythmically, allow yourself to exhale fully so you can inhale fully, and just watch your thoughts. Watch them rise, watch them interrupt each other, watch them bring up stuff from when you were 14, watch them talk about what you have to do next week, watch them bring up that girl that is attractive where you work, watch them talk about where you're going to go and get coffee. Just watch them. You don't have to jump in with them and like ride them, you know, till the next like town, but just literally just watch your thoughts rise and interrupt and rise and interrupt, and watch them with a sense of joy and humor. And as you do, what happens is you start to calm down internally, because you're just watching your thoughts and you're like, oh, this is fascinating. Oh, wow, watch how my thoughts interrupt each other. That's interesting. And they keep wanting to say negative things about me. I wonder what that is. Where does that come from? That's quite fascinating. And so you don't have to, like, you can hear me like dialoguing right now. If you can then take the next step where you're not dialoguing, you're just observing the thoughts rise and fall, observing them come and go, observing them like create or try to create distraction, and just smile at that and go, oh, I see what you're doing. You're trying to steal me away. Right? And that's okay. Steal me away. I just care about what's going on. I'm just going to watch them. You can do whatever you want, mine. You can go wherever you want. You can bring up whatever you want. You can, you know, you can laugh if you want. You can cry if you want. You can be angry if you want. You can be confused if you want. Just watch it as if you literally have taken your hands off of it and you're no longer trying to control it. Because the moment you're no longer trying to control your thinking is the moment that your thinking will start to relax and lighten and float also. There'll be this sense of, oh, there's a lightness, even though my mind is running a million miles an hour, because I've taken my hands off the effort to try to control it. Part of being highly evolved is allowing things to be the way they're going to be and not making an effort to try to dictate and command and control the way everything else is going to be, but instead being in the presence with it. We don't try to control our women. If we're really good men, we're in the presence with them, especially when they're in breakdown mode. Right? And women will tell you, like, we get crazy. Women will tell you that. Yes, we get crazy. And many men will become reactionary. But the problem is a reaction is a slave action, because we don't think about it. A reaction is a slave action. Yeah. So instead, can you be a highly evolved man? Can you step into your emotion of love and kindness? Can you step towards her and embrace her and hold her? Can you touch her face gently and say, babe, I've got you. It's okay. Break down if you need to. I'm here. Right? And then she's going to be like, I've never met a man like you. Now listen, remember a moment ago I said, touch her face gently. When I was a boy, there was this picture of an Apache Indian. Apaches are a type of Native American here in the Southwest where I am. And they're very, very dominant. They're very powerful warriors, right? And there was a saying that was attributed to them. And I've since found that they've also attributed the saying to someone else. I don't know who actually said it originally, but it says this: there's nothing so strong as gentleness, and nothing so gentle as real strength. There's nothing so strong as gentleness, and nothing so gentle as real strength. When I was a boy, I must have read that, no lie, 1,000 times. I distinctly remember being 9 and 10, standing in my little leg braces, standing, looking up at that picture of that Apache, being inspired by the power and the strength of the way he looked and the style of what he was wearing, and wanting to be a strong man like him, and reading that 1,000 times because I didn't understand it. And I read it over and over and over, and it became my mantra. There's nothing so strong as gentleness, and nothing so gentle as real strength. So circling back to what I said a minute ago about when your lady is in breakdown, or your partner's in breakdown, even your mom, your sister, your best friend, right? You step towards them and touch their face. You step towards them and hold their hands. You step towards them and embrace them. This, when you touch their face like that, that's gentleness. And it takes real strength to be able to touch lightly. It takes real strength to be able to control your emotions, not control them so you don't feel them, but control them so you're not in reaction and consequently being in slave action, but you are in conscious choice of how you want to express them. This is being a highly evolved man, being conscious, being aligned, being aware, being connected. When I talk about being aligned, I'm talking about being spiritually aligned, being connected to the divine or to whatever universal force is out there. It could simply be quantum field theory, right? Which is just pure potential energy. It could be that too. Literally, it's about being in the presence, which is different than being present. Being present is limiting. Being in the presence is liberating. Being present is being aware of your five senses. Being in the presence is having that feeling of the energy and the life force that is the universe, connecting you and connecting you with everything else, and you realizing there is no separation. There's only power, and I'm connected to everything, and everything is connected to me. Dude, I'm just riffing right now, brother. I'm just riffing. And I know that I haven't given you a chance to talk at all much. Please forgive me. I just got on the hill and I'm just like, boom. I just wanted to say the juicy, delicious stuff.
It's absolutely, like it is exactly that, juicy and delicious. And I'm welcoming this wisdom that is channeling through you. And the thing is, a lot of our viewers are probably confused about what a real man is. A lot of them have been conditioned by their fathers to, we have to win, or you're not worth anything. You have to succeed. You have to be the strongest, the fastest, the whatever it is. And if you're not, then what? What's that meaning to life? And really what you're doing there by telling us about how there's no separation, and telling us about how we get to be present and come from the heart, from feel that love through being grateful, and through that, that's where our power lies. I just love that quote that you said. What was it? Nothing as strong as gentleness, nothing so gentle as real strength. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, that says it.
Right. So let me add to it. Let me add to what you're saying, right?
Please.
Remember the movie Braveheart?
Yes.
The Hollywood version of William Wallace, right? Still a great movie.
Yeah.
Do you remember when William Wallace loses his family and his uncle picks him up and takes him away, and he comes back? It's fairly early in the movie, right?
Right.
And his friend, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of his name in a minute. Right? His friend, sees him, and I think he thinks he recognizes him, but I think he's not 100% sure at first. And he walks up with this huge boulder, right? And he drops it at his feet, and William Wallace looks at him and he goes, because he knows what's going on. He knows what's going to happen. He goes, "You dropped a rock." He's like, "Call it a test of manhood." And he goes, "You win." So he's not challenging. He's like, "Okay, you win." He doesn't have to prove that he's harder, stronger, tougher, right? A real man doesn't fight until he needs to fight, right? Yeah. So listen, I'm not pro-violence at all, but I am a martial arts teacher, and I have been for 21 years. And I do hold a 10th degree black belt in a combat martial art. And so when I teach martial arts, I say to my guys, you must come home to your family. So you do whatever you need to do to get home, but do also the minimum so that you don't have to hurt somebody. Learn to control yourself so you can learn to control them, right? So then his friend challenges him again. We'll call it a test of soldiery then. He's like, he basically doesn't rise to any of the challenges, right? Because he's like, I'm going to let you win, because this is not what it means to be a man. What it means to be a highly evolved man is to be literally in touch with and connected to your heart, your soul, your physical body, your mind, every part of you. My martial arts teacher in Japan says he's extraordinary, not extraordinary, extraordinary, meaning he uses all of the faculties that he's been given, sense of sight, smell, touch, feeling, emotions, like all of that, right? But he also uses his sense of intuition, his heart, his kindness, his patience. He also uses his attention and his focus and his anger if he needs to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So nothing is wrong. It's just how are you choosing to use it? Are you using it or is it using you?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the anger, right? Are you using the anger or is the anger using you? Are you a slave to the anger or is the anger a tool for you to become stronger and more focused? How are you showing up? Not what does your dad want, not what do the boys down at the pub want,
Mm.
right? Who are you going to be? What is your integrity? Where are your cojones? Where are your balls, right?
Mm.
How are you going to stand up for what's right and wrong? There, dude, I was in a bar one night and I was dancing, right?
Yeah.
And because I like to get down, right? Like, right? So yeah, right. So I'm out dancing, doing my thing, and then at one point, this song comes on. I'm like, I like the song, but I didn't want to dance to it. So back up so I can watch the dance floor and see everybody. Out of the corner of my eye, I see this lady stumble backwards, and I was like, what's that? So I look. She's caught in a horseshoe of chairs and tables. Okay, she can't get out, and the only exit is out the opening of the horseshoe, and there's a big buff dude standing there, right? And I watch, and she tries to get past him, and he shoves her back, stumbles back 10 or 12 feet. So I'm like, oh man. So I go over there, and I can't get behind her. I can't get behind between them. So I go behind him, and I'm like, hey, and he can't hear me over the boom, 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 right? And so I lean, and I can't lift my arms, bro. Like, even though I can't lift my arms, I still do martial arts. I use my shoulders, I use my neck, I use my spine. No lie, bro. I lean forward with the eye teeth on my right side. I bite that dude in the right biscuit. I bite him in the right biscuit, dude, with my eye teeth sharp and pinch. It's a pinch. It's not a full-on mouthful. It's just a pinch. I bite that sucker over in the right butt cheek. I pinch and I twist, and he goes, hey, and he turns around. This dude's probably 6'2", right? Hey, and he's like looking like this, and he looks down. Here I am, 4 feet tall, 75 pounds, right? Just as small as you bit him in, right? Why? Because he was hurting a woman. So what I did was I stopped this thing, and I'm like, stop pushing the woman. And he goes, she's my wife, and she's drunk, and she's trying to get in a fight. And I was like, well, stop shoving her. And I stood there. I stood my ground because I know right is right. Doing the right thing is not always easy, but doing
Yeah.
the right thing is always the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
know, there's that movie 51st Dates, right? And Adam Sandler calls the great big Samoan dude in there, he calls him Mr. Could kill me with one fist or with one punch, right? So that's what this guy was to me. But the thing is, bro, like, right is right.
Yeah.
And as a highly evolved man, you step up and you do what's right
Yeah.
because it's the right thing to do. And now, how do we determine what's right? Not by what our fathers say, not by what our mates say down at the pub.
Mm.
Internally,
Yeah.
what is right for you? If you're like, oh, God, I should do, then get up and do, right? That's a highly evolved man, a man who listens to himself internally and moves with his own compass, his own drive, his own mission.
Absolutely. And I can imagine that there's a lot of men out there that may have had this heightened awareness around, um, being, maybe being, a highly evolved male, or, maybe they had a spiritual awakening, or maybe they're just thinking, that's not quite right, or whatever, or they're, maybe before they've had a group of friends and they all sit around and they, drink beer, or, like most people do, which is, great fun, right?
Sure,
But,
sure.
also you might realize that actually you've known all these guys for many, many years, but actually you don't really know much about them. Funnily
Yeah.
enough, it's kind of surface deep. And, then you get to, it might come to a point where you have information come to you and go, hang on a minute, like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? And then you get to, if you want to, you get to, make a stand and say, well, actually, that joke I was saying the other day wasn't, completely in integrity, or, whatever it is, you have different views on whatever's arising for you, and you get to take that stand. But that can be difficult when you've known people your whole life. You've been involved in that group of friends or whatever it is. And you might be a workplace. They might be doing things that aren't particularly great, and then you get to, make that stand. It's quite empowering, but also very scary, I would say.
Absolutely. But I love what you're saying, right? There's this feeling where all of a sudden you go, is this what I'm supposed to be doing in my life? And just like you said, that's the beginning stages of a highly evolved male. That's the awakening. That's the awareness, right? And we always want to talk about the awakening as being associated with enlightenment. That is the moment the lights went on. When you go, wow, am I doing what I was meant to do?
Mhm.
That's the calling of the soul, right? And when you're courageous enough to say, I don't think I am, what is it that I would really rather be doing right now? What really matters to me? If you have the courage to really go after what really matters to you, your life will change profoundly. And when your life changes profoundly, everybody's life around you changes profoundly. You
Yeah.
don't have to be held back by your mates. You don't have to be pushed forward in a direction that your father thinks is masculine. You don't have to let someone else tell you who you get to be. You get to be you. Do you, right? When you do you, then what you do is you actually liberate and set other people free. When you are courageous enough to be the real version of you, whether that's emotional, whether that's kind, whether that's gentle, whether that's hyper masculine, whether you want to be an MMA fighter, a mixed martial arts fighter, or you want to be, a yoga teacher, like maybe sort of opposite extremes, right? That doesn't matter. What matters is, does it sing to your heart? Does it sing to your soul? And more importantly, if it really truly sings to your heart and your soul, you will find that you're a better, kinder, nicer gentleman. Versus if you're just like, oh yeah, I'm buff and I'm strong and this is what I want to do. I want to be dominant and powerful, masculine. That's great. But is that your ego, or are you connected to your heart? Do
Mm.
other people matter, or do you only matter? Because when you're highly evolved, everyone matters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all one. We are all one.
Yes, yes. And when you're in the presence, right, you experience that sense of oneness, that sense of unity. You're like, oh, right, there's no separation. This is fabulous. This is fascinating.
It is.
There's
It
just
is.
presence.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a rite of passage, I feel, to go through that process of unraveling what is your ego and what is really you. Especially when we live in a world that is so focused on, well, being distracted, but also a lot of people are working jobs they don't want to be working in, probably for rubbish money a lot of the
Yes,
time as well.
yes,
And
yes.
it really, it's just meaningless, and we end up focusing on eating junk food um, and maybe having addictions and things like that. And really, the reason for us seems to be that it's like a missing piece of the puzzle, should I say? Figuring that our ego is one thing, and then when we become present, we then can shift that and really come from our heart. So I'm stumbling over my words a little bit. It's all in there, but
Well, can I add to it?
yeah,
So
please.
if you are at a rubbish job, right, or you're at a job that's paying rubbish, right, and you're not happy, you're not where you want to be, you're not highly evolved, and you might even be like, highly evolved, bro, like I'm not even evolved, like I'm really not where I want to be right now. That is a remarkably beautiful thing for you. Because the emotion of feeling dissatisfaction is a driver for you. Let that pain, let that disgust, let that frustration, let that disappointment allow you to look inside and go, who am I really? What do I really want to do? If I could do anything in the world and know that I could get paid for it and really make a living at it, what would I do? Some people, like, I love this story, right? And you hear this story, this kind of story all over the world, where you hear somebody say, I just want to surf all day, but you can't make any money doing that. Okay, so let's look at the attorney who needs to get away from his high-powered job in New York City, goes down to Costa Rica, right, and takes some surf lessons down there for a week, falls in love with it, goes back to his office, closes down what he's doing, leaves his job, gets out of his apartment, and moves to Costa Rica, opens a surf shop, sells surfboards, sells the equipment, all of that, learns to surf, on his off time, gets better, and starts teaching other attorneys who are floating on the same surfboards, right, that he rented them out in the middle of the ocean, waiting for the next big wave, watching the emotion of stress drain from their body, and the joy and health and happiness and love and appreciation and gratitude rise up in them, that sense of humility and presence rise up in them. And when they're in that present state, they say, man, I wish I could do what you do. And he goes, you can. And they go, oh, I can't because I have to do this and this and this. Before you hit record, you said, let's talk about limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Dang straight, man. Let's talk about limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Because the moment you say, I can't, I have to, you are a slave. Listen to the language you're using. Okay, now I'm going to take people backwards. If you are in your life and you're not getting the results that you want, you're not getting the results that you want because you're not taking the actions that need to get different results. Can we agree with that? I'm going to say yes. Okay. Since our audience can't answer, I'm going to answer for them. You can answer for them if you want. Right. So when I get excited, so when I do that, I'm just throwing my headset forward, just so you know. And so when I get excited, I got to move. Right. So if we're talking about like results, if you're in a life that you are not getting the results that you want, you don't like where you are, no worries, man. That's because the actions that you're taking are not producing the results you want. The actions you're taking are producing the results you're getting. So listen, results come from the actions. Where do the actions come from? They come from the motivation, because the emotions, because the emotion that causes the action. If I'm frustrated and depressed, I'm probably just going to sit here and, and eat crappy food and watch TV, and I'm going to complain. I'm not going to actually take much action at all. And then the results are going to be the equivalent, right? So if we want different results, we get to change the actions. And if we have to change the actions, then we need to change the emotion. Well, I can't just go from sad to glad, brah, right? Like I can't just go from like turn that frown upside down. So yes, you can, but sometimes it's difficult. So I teach people to go from negative to neutral to positive. So literally, if you're not feeling happy, you're not where you want to be, neutralize that by consciously thinking about something else. Way back in the day when I had a day job and I wasn't just speaking professionally and doing professional coaching, right? I had a boss who reamed me for teaching something that she thought was wrong when I looked it up and it was 100% right. And she was wrong. She didn't go through the training. That's neither here nor there. That's, that looks like blame. But I'm just telling you, I was in breakdown internally, because I was like, how is she going to tell me I'm not a good facilitator? I've been speaking since I was 7 years old. I love these people. I looked it up. I know that I'm teaching exactly the way it's supposed to be. Like I just was doing that crazy stuff in my head. And I was like, oh crap. Because I got caught in my own thinking, because I say this a lot too. Think your thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. Think your thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. And what I mean is, when you think your thoughts, because the emotions come from your thinking. See, I'm tricking you into following me. The results that you have come from the actions you take, and the actions you take come from the emotions that you have, because the emotion inspires the action. The emotions come from what you think.
Yeah.
So think your thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. If you're thinking your thoughts, you're choosing the emotion. If you're letting your thoughts think you, your unconscious mind is running rampant and out of control. And if it's running rampant and out of control, then that means the emotions are subject to whatever crap is coming up. You're being thought. You're out of control. So on the ride home, because I don't drive, I take the short bus, right? And so on the way home, I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe she said that. And I'm just like ruminating, right? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I got trapped in my own mind. Okay, I know better than this, right? So I shifted, but I wasn't able to go from sad to glad, from turn that frown upside down to the smile, right? I was like, I can't do it. So I was like, but what I do know is, because I've been meditating since I was 19 for 30 years, right? I was like, I know that I can control my mind.
Yeah.
And so as an artist, I've wanted to paint the mountains here in Tucson since I moved here. And it was wintertime. And during the winter, the mountains here during the sunset turn hot pinks and reds and purples and blues. Beautiful, absolutely stunningly beautiful, exquisite. And so I poured myself into those. And I was like, what are the colors? How do the colors fade from one color to another? What does the shadow look like? If I was going to paint this with watercolors, how would I paint the shadow and make it so it looks like a shadow and not just like this blob in the middle? And I lost myself in that. I went from negative to neutral. I lost myself. Neutral meaning something completely different. I poured myself into it. I studied it. I became curious. Key word, curiosity. Curiosity will change everything in your life. If you walk away with nothing else from this powerful conversation that we're having, I'm just excited. Like, I really feel like I'm delivering some juice,
Yeah.
right? Thank you. But if you walk away from this conversation with nothing else, walk away with curiosity, become more curious about your partner, more curious about your mates, more curious about the color of the grass and the shape of things, more curious about how the universe works. Just become more curious and learn. And as you learn, you will grow. And as you grow, you will pour more into other people, and you will be poured into, and you will have an abundance so you can pour into other people. So I went from negative to neutral by focusing on something else. By the time I got home, I was like, oh, I'm happy again. So I went from negative to positive through the route of negative to neutral. I neutralized consciously and intentionally by thinking. I know as a meditator that you can only focus on one thing at a time, right? In NLP, they'll tell you, oh no, your mind can focus on and remember, like, 7 things plus or minus. Okay, plus or minus 2. I'm like, right, but I'm talking about in the present moment. I'm focused on one thing. And I neutralized, I focused on the mountains. And then I realized, oh wow, I'm not angry anymore. And then I found compassion when I was on the other side for my boss, who I knew was struggling also. It turns out that she'd been diagnosed with cancer and was really struggling and angry, right? And so I don't know what's in her mind. Gandhi says, how can you judge a man when you don't know where he comes from? And I'm paraphrasing, that's not exactly what he says, but what he's saying is, I don't know what they've gone through. So how can I judge them until I know who they are and how they are, an association and in response to or reaction to what they've been through? Now, look, if you don't have the results that you want, it's because you're not taking the actions you need to, right? That's because the emotions are controlling the actions. And what's controlling those? The thoughts. You're probably being thought. You're not thinking your own thoughts. You're letting your thoughts think you. So that unconscious mind is thinking the emotions into existence. Those emotions are then causing the actions, and the results are the result of that. Now, what comes before the thoughts? Belief.
Yes.
And then before belief is your programming. Your programming comes from your mom, your dad, your culture. Your programming comes from your teachers, from your principals, from your mates, right? From your mates' parents, right? From what you watch on TV and what you listen to. That programming, because you're only given one choice in that moment. And in that moment, you're highly suggestible, and you go, oh, that must be true. So I'm going to believe that. When I believe that, now I start thinking in ways that support that belief, right? So, the old money adage, right? Like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, right? That was the programming that some of us got when we were kids. Well, if money doesn't grow on trees, then I believe that money must be hard to make, and money, is scarce, and money is never going to be there. And so these are the beliefs, but that's also the language, right? And so consequently, emotions are gonna be like, oh, money sucks, and only rich people, they're snobby and horrible. They don't realize that rich people are some of the nicest people on the planet. And rich people are some of the people that actually give more than anybody else on the planet gives. They're some of the most, they have the time and the availability and the resources to do that. If you can, and if you want to be a better man, if you want to be highly evolved, part of being highly evolved is also taking care of your finances, right? So when you do that, you get better and better and better emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually, financially. Grow, my brother, grow. This is the process. This is the way to becoming a highly evolved man, right? Recognize that if you are not where you want to be in that right now, you're in that job that's paying rubbish. That is the result because of the actions you're taking, because of the emotions you've been subject to, because of the thinking that you're probably allowing, not consciously choosing. You know what? I actually want to choose to think positively. That's coming from the belief that you may not even know what your beliefs are. Right? They may be so subliminal, so subconscious, so unconscious that you may not even know what your beliefs are. So take time to look at those. And those come from the programming. Somewhere in your life you were programmed. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. So essentially your thoughts make things. So absolutely. So, if you can think more positively, that's one thing. But something that the way that I like to think of it is it's not just your thoughts, but it's also committed action. So the way that I like to do this is I focus on what is my way of being to start with. Who am I? What is my vision? What is my intention? And I'm always having my awareness on what is my way of being in that present moment. And from there, that transfers onto what am I doing? So what am I doing to get myself to the next, what I want? So it's a way of being followed by doing, and that's when you have. So it's amazing way to think of things, and that's pretty much, as far as I can see, the way that you manifest whatever your vision is. It's
And
massive.
don't you think that this being, that
Yeah.
right? And being do have, I get that. But let's stay with the being. Don't you think that the being, like when I go, okay, as a highly evolved male, how
Mm,
do I want to be? And you can hear that I've calmed down. You can hear the tone of my voice has changed. I'm
mm,
not in my head. I'm not in my throat. I'm in my chest, right? And even if I come down more lower into my center, you can hear
mm,
the voice change. This isn't me trying to do something and be somebody different. This means that I'm coming to my core, my center. How
mm.
am I choosing to be?
Yeah.
How do I want to show up? Who am I standing for? How am I standing for them? If I'm talking to my grandmother, I might talk like this, or I might talk like this. I might be a little softer, right? That just because I change how I speak to somebody doesn't necessarily mean I'm losing my ego or I'm losing my integrity. It
Mm,
means that I'm probably expanding and expressing my integrity for that person. The way I show up for my grandmother, the way I show up for my mom, the way I show up for my sister is maybe different than the way I show up for my mates, right? For my
mm,
homies, for my
yeah.
friends, right? Especially if I'm kicking it with a bunch of guys,
Mm,
right? And if I'm kicking it with a bunch of guys that are martial artists versus a bunch of guys, for example, who are meditation people versus a bunch of guys who are entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean that my integrity is different. It means that I'm speaking all of their language.
yeah.
How do you want to be? You hit the nail on the head, man. Curiosity and be. Who do you want to be? Become curious. I don't
Yeah.
know. If I don't know who I want to be, become curious. Test it out. Try it. See who you like being. What feels right. What feels dynamic. What feels powerful. What feels aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming to the end of the interview, unfortunately. But before we go to talking about your free gift, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Can you give me a sec to just kind of be quiet and allow it to flow through me? Okay,
Oh
because
yeah,
I want it to come through me, not from me. So I'm going to close my eyes for a minute, and I'm gonna be quiet for just a minute. Is that okay?
yeah, please.
Okay. Give me just a sec. It's not cowardice to cry. It's cowardice not to be courageous enough to speak openly about who you are and how you feel and what you really want. The real cowardism or the real cowardice comes from not being courageous enough to say who you really are and how you want to be and what's important to you. Real courage comes when you step out and away from the crowd and you say, this is who I am and what I want. And when you step out and away from the crowd, you say, this is who I am and what I want. Your tribe will find you and you will find your tribe. You may even find that teacher. As the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And so you're
Mm,
not cowardice to cry. You're
mm,
cowardice to not step out and be who you really, really are, right? Where my mom said, keep trying, right? When I was little, I'd say, okay, I'm ready for your help. She would say, okay, I'm busy. You keep trying, right? I would take it one step further. Don't try, do. And how do? You be confident that you're going to figure that out. So the
mm,
moment I go, nope, that's what I want. So who do I get to be to make that happen? I get to be courageous. I get to be curious. I get to be driven. I get to be motivated. I get to be open. I get to be sensitive. I get to be kind. I get to be apologetic. Now, listen to this really quickly. So many times people are going to tell you, be unapologetic about who you are. Yes, I 100% agree when you're in your integrity. But if there are things in your life and people in your life that you want to look back on and go, I could have been nicer to that person. I think I owe them an apology. Get it out of your system. Go and be the man that you really were born to be.
mm.
Apologize, own your peace, make reparations if possible. And if the person is like, well, that's wonderful and great, but I'm so angry, you know that you can still have love for them and love for yourself and forgiveness in your own heart for yourself for the things that you've done to other people. Now, the opposite side of asking for apologizing is asking for forgiveness. right? And forgiving yourself. So, so it's not really the opposite, it's really the complement. So apologize and ask for forgiveness, but also the opposite is when you forgive somebody else for what they've done to you. Let that stuff go, right? Life is not about this. I'll end on this. Life is not about having the courage or the endurance to push through when things get difficult. It's about letting go of and releasing everything making life difficult. Change is inevitable. You are going to change whether you like it or not. Transformation, however, is a choice. And there's power in choice.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much, PJ. You've just given us a wealth of amazing wisdom, and I'm so grateful for that. So you have a lovely free gift, which I'd like you to talk about. It's called Discovering True Love. Can you tell us a little about it?
Sure. It's actually Discovering True Love Conversation.
Okay.
So what you'll find is that in our lives, right, we hear all of this great wisdom. We get lessons from people online. We read amazing books. We might even have some mentors. But most people don't have mentors. They're looking outside of themselves for wisdom. And so they get stuck like looking and looking and looking. They get stuck inside. They can't figure it out. So what I figured is that sometimes if you really need help, it's best just to talk to somebody, just to reach out to somebody that you go, I don't know you, or I do know you and I really respect you, or I don't know you, but I'm sort of inspired by you or enrolled by what you're saying, or what you said makes sense. Can I ask you some more questions? Can I get on a phone call with you? Or actually, we'll probably do Zoom, right? Because a lot of your audience is probably going to be international for me. So we'll probably get on a Zoom call, and let's actually get on a 20, 25-minute call and have a conversation about where you are. What's holding you back? What are those limiting beliefs? What are you believing that's stopping you from going forward? And remember, those beliefs are probably false. They come from your programming. You just bought into those. So let's get on a phone call, identify some of those limiting beliefs, and set you free. Let's help you to realize, oh, that's actually not true. That's actually false. That's actually something I've come to believe, but it's not 100% true. So let's get on a 20, 25, who knows, maybe it'll go 30 minutes. Let's get on a call and talk about who you are, where you are, and what you need and what you want. Let's get you becoming that highly evolved male that you were born to be, that you were turned on by when you saw the summit, that made you go, you know what? I want something different in my life, and I may not know how to do it. And most people stop right there. I don't know how. So they stop. Reach out to me. Reach out to Ethan, right? I'm going to throw Ethan out there, right? Reach out to both of us if you want, because I would guarantee this guy is super, super cool, right? So if you needed something, he would probably love to connect with you as much as I would, but I'm guaranteeing that I will talk with you. Okay. I can't guarantee for him, but jump on a 20, 25-minute call with me. Let's talk about where you are. Let's identify where you want to be, and let's find out what's blocking you and get you in action and motion again. Because once you get in action, the world changes.
Wow. Thank you, PJ. Like, this is such an amazing gift. And yeah, if you don't go for that, you're really missing out. You can clearly see that PJ's full of amazing wisdom. So yeah, thank you, PJ, for being on this call. We are blessed to have had you here, and yeah, I feel a real connection with you. And you know, we've spoken before, and I'm sure that we're going to continue our connection as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. So yeah, thank you to the viewers. Thank you to you, PJ, and stay tuned, because tomorrow we're going to have another amazing speaker. And they will also have an amazing free gift as well. So peace and love to you all. Have a good morning, evening, whatever it is. So peace.
Bye-bye, my friends. Stay strong.